My original goal of this flight review was to enjoy and show you the ultra low cost carrier experience of Flair Airlines. However, this is a story of how a quick 90-minute flight turned into a 12-hour airport marathon. Delay after delay after delay to calling customer service twice and navigating the conflicting information from Flair today was a test of patience. So buckle up as we work our way through the turbulence of Flair Airlines. We begin outside YYC on a lovely day, unaware of what was in store.
Good morning and welcome to Calgary. Today we'll be flying with Flair Airlines, an ultra-low-cost carrier to Vancouver, British Columbia. Now, it's no secret that flying in Canada can be a bit expensive. It's the second largest country in the world, sparsely populated, and dominated by the WestJet Air Canada duopoly. But recently, these ultra-low-cost carriers have been starting to percolate the market, offering travelers with more options when it comes to purchasing tickets, and Flair Airlines was one of the first. In our videos, we enjoyed some ultra-low-cost carriers in Japan, Korea, and New Zealand with, I'd say, favorable results. So today we'll see how the ultra-low-cost carrier market is here in Canada. And actually on my way here, my cousin dropped me off and she asked, "What airline am I flying?" And I said Flair, and she laughed and said, "I hope your flight isn't canceled." So I guess there is some work on their on-time percentage. The flight is set to depart at 1:45, so come along, let's see if Flair Airlines is a budget-friendly way to travel, but more importantly, let's see if it's an enjoyable way to travel, as we go from A to BC.
Spoiler alert, it's not. Anyway, Flair's check-in in Calgary is just off to the right of Porter. Unlike other low-cost carriers we flew on, there's no kiosks for check-in as it's expected to be done online. But there are the similar signs advising passengers to be cognizant of all their carry-on and check-in baggage weight and size. This was a quick 2-night trip to Vancouver, so I didn't have anything besides a personal bag. And at no time, neither here nor at the gate, was I asked to weigh my carry-on. With no bags to check in, I was able to head straight to security. Now, security lines in Canada can be long, so many airports now have express security lines, and it's free to use. You just have to book a time online on the airport website, and then be at security for your 15-minute window. It doesn't have to be booked far in advance. I simply booked mine on the drive over to the airport. Calgary's express security line is all the way on the other side of the airport, so give yourself a few minutes to trek over. As we make our way, I should mention that Vancouver was never my intended destination. I initially purchased a ticket to Abbotsford, British Columbia, another airport which serves the BC Lower Mainland east of Vancouver. Remember this for later. However, I was notified early on from Flair that my original flight was cancelled and was instructed to choose another flight or cancel for a full refund. To Flair's credit, the process of selecting another flight online was straightforward and easy to follow, providing many alternatives. And so, I eventually settled on flight 8801 to Vancouver International. At this point, everything was still hunky-dory, just making my way through security. Our flight is at the A concourse, so the YYC link came in handy today.
Alright, so that's the first time I was using the express security line, and it actually worked pretty good. Especially in Canada, the security lines can be hit or miss, and it's free to register, so it's actually pretty quick. The only thing is it's at the D security checkpoint, which is on the international side, so it's a bit of a walk there, but then you can quickly grab one of these carts to go back to the domestic side. And we're at the A concourse today, so we're going to take this all the way to the other side.
And since we'll have no nice window views with Flair, I'll take the opportunity here to invite you viewers to subscribe for continued travel and aviation-related content. We were scheduled to depart from gate A20, and here's our original aircraft just hidden behind the jet bridge. Boarding commenced on time at 1:15, and some guests were already on the plane. And then
He needs to go on maintenance, so if you can just sit down and I'll make an announcement after 15 minutes. Thank you.
So there was a maintenance issue, and they'd given us an update at 1:30. But long story short, we weren't going anywhere fast.
It's about 2 o'clock right now, and about 45 minutes ago when they started the boarding, they stopped the boarding, said there was a maintenance issue, so some people had to get off the plane. They said it would be about 15 minutes, and 15 minutes came and went. And then at 1:45 I got up, and looks like there was a gate change to A19 from A20, and looks like they put a flight to Montreal at gate A20, which actually started to board. And it's about 2 o'clock right now, and really haven't heard anything else from Flair when we're expected to board for our flight. So I guess Flair needs a little bit more with the communication at the gate. When maintenance issues arise, it's not the end of the world, but just a little bit of communication to the guests when things like this happen. But anyways, it's 2 o'clock right now, so we'll see when we start to board, and hopefully it won't be too much longer.
I later found out the flight to Montreal was scheduled to depart at 12:25 from gate A19. They ended up switching the gates, which leads me to believe they wanted the Montreal flight out first, as that plane, now ours, also had a maintenance issue. The plane from gate A20 ended up departing at 2:15, leaving Vancouver-bound passengers in the terminal. All there is to do now is wait. They kept giving updates every 15 minutes, which consisted of a promise to update in the next 15 minutes, and the PA system reaches only this area, so if you are further in the concourse, you're unable to hear the update.
Alright, so the latest information I have is the flight is now delayed until 3:45, and it's just past 3 o'clock now. But in the meantime, they emailed me a voucher for $10 of food, which I can use at any place in the airport. But unlike when we were in Tokyo Haneda and I had that food voucher as well from Air Canada, $10 in a Canadian airport is really not going to get you too far. So we'll see what we can get, maybe a coffee or a bagel or something like that. But we'll hunt it down, and 3:45 is the next time, and I won't be surprised the way the day is going if it's delayed even further. But I'll grab something to eat and continue waiting and wandering about the airport until it's time to board. Well, just after I finished that last little bit, I got a message on my phone saying that it's time to board at 3:08, so back to the gate we go and give it another shot, I guess.
And here's our one chance to get on board and off to Vancouver. At this point, a 2-hour flight delay isn't the worst thing in the world. For this flight, I was in seat 28F. Seat selection was the only add-on I chose for this flight. It was a full flight, and we ended up pushing back at 4:11, 26 minutes after our latest departure time. And this is about as far as we got. We sat here for a bit while the flight deck tried to troubleshoot the problem, and then we headed back to the gate.
Unfortunately, at this time, we had to taxi back to the gate. We're returning to the gate next minute or two, and the gate agent will help once everyone disembarks the aircraft to figure out the next step.
And here's where things went from an inconvenience to unpleasant. We arrived back at the gate at 4:37, and we sat on the plane until 5:23, without any further announcements until it was decided that we would get off the plane. The aircraft was hot, stuffy, uncomfortable, and felt very confined. All I wanted to do was to get off that plane.
Alright, so we're back in the terminal, and we were on the plane for about 45 minutes. Back at the gate 45 minutes. We got back at the gate at 4:41, and we deplaned at about 5:45, so about 45 minutes, and it was pretty warm and kind of stuffy on the plane. So I was glad I had the water bottle, but I was happy that we were able to deboard and get back to the terminal with some air conditioning and a little more space, a little packed on those flights. So right now they said 6:15, and I'm trying to get another flight to Abbotsford, which is on the east side of Vancouver, which is actually my intended destination when I booked this ticket a couple months ago. So hopefully I can get on a later flight, because that would help me out, because any benefit of going to YVR, which is right by the ocean, is kind of negated with this delay. Alright, so I just got off the phone there with Flair, and they said they couldn't switch to the 2040 flight just because it's within that 3-hour time limit or whatever it is. So I guess I'm stuck with this flight, and they're still saying there's some maintenance issue with the plane. So they're just giving updates every 15 minutes. So I don't think it's going to go. I'm surprised they haven't canceled it yet, but guess we just have to wait it out now. And that's kind of one of the things with the budget ultra low cost carriers is they don't really have that large of a fleet, so there's not that many flights. So if one plane is delayed or canceled, then it kind of what you do, where'd you go. So I don't know, maybe get a drink or something because nothing's really going on over here. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so we're delayed at least until 7:30 now. I'm kind of getting lost with how many of these updates I've been doing because every 15 minutes they keep pushing it off. So I think what I'm going to do, I don't even know right now to be honest. I might wait until 7:30. If it doesn't board then, I might jump with WestJet because there's a flight to Abbotsford at like 11:30 at night. Not the best plan or best, outcome, but if it gets me there today, then I'm pretty happy because I only have 2 nights in Vancouver before I fly back. So I want to see how this plays out and wait. I guess that's all you can do when this stuff happens, right? It's just wait it out and kind of go with the flow. So we'll keep the clock ticking and counting the minutes down. Alright, so it's just about 8:30 right now, and after I had that beer in the bar, I went back to the plane. I went back to see the plane, and it looks like they were doing some work with the nose. They had the nose up, and they were doing some work there. So I think whatever is wrong with the plane, I don't even know if it can be fixed at the gate. So one thing I learned a long time ago is when to jump ship. Make a call and jump ship, cut your losses or whatever. So I said, 7:31 came by, and I said, I gotta jump ship. This is not gonna work, right? So I booked a flight actually with WestJet to Abbotsford, which leaves at 11:35 tonight. So I'll still make it to BC today because we lose an hour going back to the Pacific coast. And then I called Flair to cancel the flight. And what's actually pretty good now in Canada is I think it's fairly similar with the EU is that they have this Bill of Rights for air travel. So if there's an extensive delay, a very long delay, it doesn't matter what booking class you have or what airline that you bought it with, you're able to cancel for a full refund if the delay is that long, in which I did. And actually I called them earlier and I said I would take the 8:40 flight to Abbotsford. I said just put me on that flight, but they said no, it was past the deadline or whatever. So I tried to get another flight with them, but it didn't work. But at least their call center was actually not too bad. I waited about 20 minutes, not too bad for an airline I'd say, and it was fairly easy to get the refund. So today is not Flair's Day, and I guess my cousin is right, so I guess she wins that one today, but we'll still make it to BC in a couple hours.
With a new boarding pass in hand, it's time to reposition for our new flight and head over to the C concourse. The sun had set long ago, and the departures board showed the last few flights for Western Canada, and the red eyes for the flights back east. 11.5 hours after I entered this airport, we're finally on our way. I guess that express security line wasn't necessary today after all. For this flight, we're in 19A, and unlike Flair, we got a whole row to ourselves and a bit more space. This is one of WestJet's older 737-700s, delivered back in August 2004. The Dash 700 variants have 132 seats, with the first 12 in the premium cabin. We ended up taking off past midnight, but I was pleased we were off the ground and on our way. It was a quiet, uneventful night flight, and I enjoyed the quick service on board and was able to catch an episode or two of Bob's Burger. It was a clear night with a full moon, so I was treated to nice views of the mountains and the valleys under the moonlight, which was unfortunately difficult for the camera to pick up. Overall, this was a very long day with constant uncertainty, conflicting information from Flair. Even the departures board in the airport was never updated. When I called their customer service, it appeared they didn't have up-to-date information, which added to confusion over the phone. Blocking off flight changes for flights departing within a 3-hour window is also a very poor policy from Flair to have. I would have been happy for that later flight to Abbotsford. As this flight delay was many hours long, you also have to consider that the flight crew being timed out of work. And I think they were pushing the limit with this. The real kicker for me to switch the flights was being on that hot, uncomfortable plane, and that was enough. In my case, it was very easy to leave Flair as I had no checked bags, and I'm a single traveler. But do keep your options in mind and check the Canadian Air Passengers Protection Regulation so you know what you're entitled to. After today's experience, I can't recommend Flair Airlines. They weren't able to get me from A to B, and the handling of the situation was poor. But I am willing to give them another shot another time. The cost of this one-way, last-minute flight with WestJet came out to $253, $184 more than I initially paid with Flair. We ended up landing at 12:14 a.m. or 1:14 a.m. Mountain Time.
All right, so literally at the end of the day, we finally made it to Abbotsford, and wow, what a day. Thank you so much for joining me and keeping me company on this day. And I'm willing to give Flair Airlines another chance. But like any machines, I know maintenance happens and safety is always number one, which is no problem. But I do think they have to work on their communication with the guests, both at the airport in the terminal and on the phone. Oftentimes I was getting conflicting information. So it's like, which one do you have to, or which one are you going to believe? And also on the plane, that plane was really hot and really uncomfortable, really stuffy, very unpleasant. So I was really happy to finally be able to get off the plane 45 minutes after we parked at the gate. And that was probably one of the biggest factors when it came to, well, ended up choosing with WestJet. But on days like this, we were relaxed, we made decisions, we made through the day, and we had a nice flight over to Abbotsford and nice clear night with the full moon. We were able to see the rivers and the mountains. I don't know if it picked it up on the camera, but overall it was a nice flight over and we did it. So I'm going to go to sleep now. Thanks for watching. Have a good night. Matinee.